Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week.
Hey, Phil. Good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Kenny will be here in just a second. Oh, there he is.
I'm coming.
Hey, what are you eating? Are you
You know
eating
what?
something over there or what?
I was hungry. You know what it was, Ben? Because you're going to talk food. That makes me hungry. So then I thought, I got to get something to eat because I haven't eaten yet.
You should have had Osmows to eat at this point.
Where are you in East Vancouver?
East Vancouver, we're not there yet.
Okay, see what I mean? Whose problem is that now? Is that mine or yours?
It seems like it's your
Apparently
problem.
mine.
I think that's your problem. That's a you problem. See, I'm in Mississauga. He's in Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
And I got Osmows everywhere.
All around you.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I'm having pasta because you're not here.
Yeah, we will. We'll get there soon.
Okay.
Just for you, Kenny. We'll open up one in East Vancouver as soon as
I think he's got room in his basement. No problem. Yeah.
I don't know if that's our type of real estate, but we'll keep
In
looking.
Vancouver, it might be.
Yeah. Vancouver is for sure. We got a few in Richmond, a few in Surrey, but Vancouver we're still working on.
It's tough, man. You got to sell a lot of shwarma to pay rent.
Downtown Vancouver, absolutely. And there's only like 3-4 pockets you really want to be in the whole of downtown Vancouver. So
you want to come to East Vancouver. That's where you want to stay out of the downtown core. Come to the East Van.
No. That's just Kenny because that's where Kenny lives.
No, it's because that's
anywhere else. So
that's where all the people are going to eat. That's where we are. You come to the east side.
Thank you for jumping on this podcast. We're excited.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
I read a bit of your story. So apparently a little cafe in East Vancouver as well. So Kenny's dictating terms with this East Vancouver push.
Buddy, it's all about East Van. There is only one Vancouver, East Vancouver. And then there's the rest of them.
Fair enough.
Good Lord. It's funny too, because I realize the regional differences, right? Like growing up in Mississauga, like not growing up, but my kids and everybody else that's grown up. My nephew grew up on chicken on the rocks, right? Like we know that, Kenny, when you get here, I will get it for you.
A what?
Chicken on the rocks. It's one of their dishes. It's like I think you've got other ones, but that's the dish, right? Like that's the one that everyone gets.
That's our Big Mac. That's our Whopper. Yeah, that's our created menu item that every other brand tried to rip off.
Yeah. They've definitely tried. But it's not. It's just not as good.
I don't know why. Ben. I feel. Sometimes Phil holds out on me. Actually, more times than not, Phil holds out on me. So I've stayed at Phil's house probably a half dozen times in the last 3 years. Does he ever take me for this? Ever?
Yeah.
Never shares the stuff.
Places,
It's like he's got these things he wants to hold to himself. Like
special
can't
places,
share or something.
I'm telling you, like
We're gonna have to have a conversation with Phil about where he's taking you when you come to visit.
I'm kind of with you.
Yeah.
But we're also gonna have to have a conversation with you about why the 15-minute drive over to Richmond is such a big deal, Kenny.
Hey, that's a big drive.
That's a big drive.
I got to go across a bridge. You never know what's happening. Lots of problems.
Or you just place an order with your friends at Uber, DoorDash. That's pretty easy as well nowadays.
Yeah,
there we go.
That's a good point.
We're here to problem solve.
Yeah, all those stuff is much better. Like it's much better when you're there and you bite in before you pay. Like, you know what I mean? Like you got to do it like on the spot.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
So
I'll wait for that message from you, letting me know how your first experience is, Kenny.
I'm excited about it too because this pasta is okay, but I would much rather have what you make.
Fair enough. I'd hope so.
For listeners, we've this is going to be really fun. So we've got Ben Osmow on, and you've heard it already. If you live in most parts of Canada, you've probably had some of Osmow's dishes. But we've got Ben Osmow on, who's the CEO and head of the franchise operations for Osmows. It is definitely something that my kids have grown up on. I grew up on. My nephew used to talk about it all the time because I think it was one of your first stores, like on in Streetsville, I think it was. So he talks about it all that time, and he talks about like lining up there, and then kind of the process of being able to get in. You know, when you guys were pretty small then. So we thought this is a really cool story. You know, we wanted to get Ben on and just have a chat with him. It's unusual for us. Like usually we do a lot of like food and bev stuff, but we haven't necessarily done QSR or kind of quick serve. But my gosh, what a great story. So what we would love to do is get a little bit about you. You look like a family operation, right? Your dad, is it your dad, Sam, and then Bernadette as well? You know, kind of three Osmows at the head of the table here. So, so we would love to get a sense of like one, you and your journey to this thing, and then a little bit about Osmows a little bit more, and then where you guys are going. I think that would be a really interesting story for our listeners.
Wherever you want to go.
Yeah, wherever you want to go. I mean, the next 45 minutes is yours, sir. So you take us where you want to go.
Yeah, sounds good. No, honestly, it is a great story, and I don't know how big the terminology of the living the Canadian dream, how much that exists, but no, my family definitely got to go through it, which is pretty incredible. You know, they moved to Canada for a better life from Egypt, and they wanted my sisters and I to be able to kind of have a better opportunity, better schooling, you know, better access to employment and funds and so on. So yeah, essentially my dad was trying to do everything in his power to get every job in his career, and just was turned down left, right, and center because Canadian experience was always something everybody needed. And as a new immigrant, you don't really have Canadian experience. You don't get it until you get your first gig. And so, yeah, unfortunately, he kind of worked a series of odd jobs forever, even though he had a great paying job back home. He worked a bunch of odd jobs. He worked at gas stations, pumping gas, just kind of went through a series of different like jobs, retail jobs, whatever he could to save up some money. And once he did save up money, he actually bought a submarine shop in Streetsville within Mississauga. So he bought the sub shop. It was doing okay sales. He thought he could turn it around, and he was for a little while. But at that time in the small town of Streetsville, both Subway and Quiznos Sub, two franchises, opened up in town. And remember the fact that I told you about the Subway part for a little bit later. So Subway opened up in town and pretty much just like took a good percentage of the sub business. They were able to offer, you know, cheaper discounted subs. They were doing $5 foot long when he opened up, and you know, it was impossible for a mom and pop to kind of compete and get that same pricing when you're going to local grocers, delis to buy all your product, right? So he realized sales were declining pretty rapidly. So he, he was actually cooking himself food one day. He was at the restaurant open till close. So he was cooking himself food one day. It was Middle Eastern food. And one of his regulars is like, "Oh, that smells amazing. What is that?" And my dad just, you know, put it on a fork and let him try it. And he was like, "Oh, that's pretty incredible, Sam. You should throw that on the menu." And it kind of stuck in his mind. He was like, "You know what? Like, there's 3 sub shops in a small town now. Why not just do a full renovation and just open this up as a, you know, shawarma restaurant, a Middle Eastern restaurant, and see if, you know, people are open-minded to trying the food." So we closed it down as a family. Like, we literally, I remember my shoulders were dead because I had to stand holding up drywall while my dad would go screw everything in. And we did all the renovations ourselves. And I was 10 years old at the time. So I should say he did most of the renovations by himself, and, really bootstrapped doing the renos to give it a different look and feel. We rebranded, opened up as Osmows, Middle Eastern. And then we're hoping customers would come in right away, but they really didn't. It's new, it was foreign, very different cuisine for the area, and especially at that time back in 2001. So he was now on the second mortgage. My mom was insanely stressed, obviously 3 kids, and we're not really creating much revenue at the restaurant. And they were both working there open till close every single day pretty much. And, since I was 10 years old, I was a cashier, I was making wraps, I was doing everything in the restaurant. And so were my sisters. We all worked there full time. So very true family business. And then, some customers started really liking the product, talking to other people, bringing other people in, introducing other people. So it started helping, but it still wasn't that big accelerant. So my dad decided, let's double down. Let's just go out and go actively sample. Let's make a ton of wraps. Let's cut them into small bites. And, my sisters and I would just literally go and distribute them everywhere. We'd go everywhere within walking distance first, and then we'd all hop in one car or even a bus and go distribute them to businesses, within a 5-kilometer radius. He was so confident, and we were as well, that if people tried the food, they would love it and they would come in. And sure enough, it took about a year and a half to get people to start coming in and being like, oh yeah, that sample really got me. And then 2 years later, after we started the sampling period, is when we kind of really hit it in stride, and we would start having about 30-40 minute lineups at any given occasion. We extended hours. We started opening up till 3-4 in the morning, and we'd have lineups. Like literally we'd have to tell the last people, like, hey guys, sorry, we got to close up. We got to open up again in a couple hours the next day. And it was a true success story as a mom and pop. And then we had a lot of customers telling us, I'm driving from 45 minutes away to come get your food. I'm driving. And this was at a time there was no Uber or DoorDash or anything. So people were willing to do a long drive for the food they loved, right? We had students coming in from 2 hours away from Western University saying, like, I go to Western, but like, I can't stop thinking about this food and I got to come back at least once a month for it. Or people would tell us our routine is I'd go back, I'd see my family, and then I'd go to Osmows, and then I'd bring 1 or 2 wraps with me to take back home. So it was just like this awesome kind of feel good story. So it made us realize we had the opportunity to open up more restaurants. So we started opening up with friends and family to start like pretty much you're talking uncles. And then we had a couple of people that actually worked at the restaurant that built their own Canadian success story. They worked at the restaurant when they first immigrated to Canada. One of our best franchisees, he immigrated to Canada. He worked at Osmows. He worked there for 2.5 years. Finally got a job in his field in accounting. He worked that for 2 years, saved money. So he decided to quit accounting. He became one of our first franchisees, and now he's got about 9 restaurants with us. Insanely successful, doing really, really well. So that's kind of the story of how it all started.
That's fantastic. What did your dad do back home?
He was a businessman. He actually worked for brands that had divisions of Johnson & Johnson, and he would do their business development and sales. So he actually traveled quite a bit. He got to go to, Korea. He traveled to the States quite a lot. And, he would just be their kind of point of contact, building their retail branches and developing business in other regions.
It's just fun. I ask because it's funny, right? You come from a multinational, you do that sort of level, and you come here for the so-called dream, and you're working gas stations and retail.
Yeah.
Right. Again, a testament to how, we're all immigrants, like all our families, but it's a testament to sort of the immigrants. And when they come in, and it's just head down, whatever, you just shut up and do things, right? Because sometimes things just don't bounce immediately your way, but you just do it, just grind away and then look, right?
Yeah.
That's good for him.
Because how frustrating is that though, right? Like to work for J&J, because I'm ex J&J, right? So
almost the same thing. Sounds like you guys had almost the same worlds, right?
Yeah, but you kind of go like, there's no way that your
how's that not transferable?
Kind of experience that he has shouldn't be able to walk into the country. Not, you can't be country manager. I get that, but he's got skills that we could definitely use. Like, why not?
No,
sense, right?
He was like so demoralized. I was young at the time, but I remember like he was like demoralized. Like, this is crazy. Like I was getting constant promotion. There was 3-4 companies fighting for me back home. Like, how is it that nobody will even like give me a call? Nobody will even bring me in for an interview. Yeah. So he was just surprised that like he was going crazy handing out resumes, but he couldn't even get like a single interview. But that being said, fast forward to now, that was technically the best course if you think about it. If he did get a job, he might have been right up in the corporate world and only lived in that corporate world forever, opposed to doing his own thing, which was a massive struggle.
On the rocks.
Exactly.
Yeah, it changes your guys' upbringing too. You guys don't get a chance to. There's a legacy of just being a great family and whatever, but you got a legacy of now a really successful entity that if you so choose, you and your sisters, if you have children of your own, to potentially,
Pass it
you know,
down as well.
just continue this on. What a great story.
Yeah, no, it's honestly been an incredible journey, and you know, there's lots of deep pains that came from it at the very beginning, but there's no success story that didn't have pain at the beginning, right? It's something you got to persevere, and only the best and the most able will. And he definitely kind of toughed through it through the hardest times. And my sisters and I grew up being the people we are because we got to grow up seeing both of our parents like work and live every single day to make sure that we were all right, we were doing well. And then it got to a point where we were, and then we got to get more and more involved in the business. And they always said, like, you guys are supposed to be 10 times smarter than us, and you got to come back and add value to the business. And, you know, my one sister, Bernadette, and I, my dad's felt more than confident from a long time ago to hand off the business and tell us to run with it. And it's been quite a journey.
Good for you, man. That's really cool. That's really, really cool.
Did you always know that you were going to come help run the business? Like, was that always apparent to you? Or, you know, because kind of growing up with it, there were probably moments where you're like, Dad, I don't want to hand out more. I don't want to talk about this and
shwarmas anymore. Yeah.
Well, by the time you're 20 years old, half your life is doing shwarmas, right?
You know, like,
Yeah, literally. Yeah. I mean, you know what? I did, but what people don't understand is, like, it wasn't a part of this master plan at the beginning that it would become this big franchise, right? I mean, when you look at the size of Osmows, what we were 10 years ago, we were literally one handful of locations.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't this long, planned out, drawn out process that we knew we were going to end up becoming, the world's largest shawarma brand. It wasn't in the original books. It was something in which we opened one, and it finally started doing well. And then we were like, okay, we'll open up one or two more as a family. And then when those started doing really well, then we had franchisees, customers convert to franchisees, customers saying, hey, I want to open here. I would love to open here. And we didn't have a franchising process. We didn't have a website. We didn't have anything along those lines. So I didn't necessarily grow up knowing I wanted to do this. I grew up very entrepreneurial because I knew I hated asking my parents for money for anything, whether it was like sports or this and that. And, you know, I felt guilty about it because I knew kind of the family was in a struggle. So I'd work every job imaginable as a kid, you know, newspaper, shoveling snow, landscaping, looking at jobs on Kijiji all the time looking for labor, extra laborers needed. And by the time I became like 15, 16, started my own companies, you know, decks and fences, moving companies, whatever you could that you could use your able body and make some good money and so on. So it kind of instilled that entrepreneurial spirit in us because we knew that because the family wasn't doing as well, we wanted to contribute however we could. And then by the time I got a bit older, I actually wanted to become a lawyer. Everybody always said my biggest asset was I was really good at arguing and debating. So I wanted to be a lawyer. So yeah, I went into university thinking I was going to follow through and do law school. And then during university, again, came time I had to make some money on the side in university. And I, you know, had a moving company that made really good money. I had all the guys I played football throughout university. All the guys on the team were perfect for the work. And I was able to pay guys when we were like 17, 18 years old. I was able to pay guys like $25 an hour, which was massive at the time. And I was making good money. So I kind of naturally pivoted into going down the business route. I did my MBA, and I knew at that point we'd opened up maybe 7 restaurants. We were at 7 restaurants at that time. And at that point, I started seeing more of like a long-term vision, and so did my dad. And I actually wanted to steer clear of the business for a while because I knew once I fully got into it, when you left everything, you're never getting out.
No, you're in for good.
So when I finished university, I did my MBA. And when I came back, I got a job downtown. And I was like, my goal was to work downtown 5 years, stay clear, disconnected from the business for a little while, and then step back in at that point in time and we'll start franchising. And then, you know, my dad and my sister both convinced me. My sister had just quit her job and joined the family business. And they both, called me one day and they said, we're going to talk this Sunday. We have family day every Sunday. And after the family day, they were like, hey, you're getting a lot more people asking to franchise. Like, this is your part of it. You need to come, like, take on the development, how we're going to grow the brand, where we're going to grow, franchising, real estate, all that. And I was like, okay, when are we thinking? And they're like, today.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yesterday.
So yeah, I tried my best to avoid it for a little bit longer, but I'm glad I didn't. Honestly, it's it was a blessing in disguise. And then from that point onwards, we started really franchising. We brought on, 2-3 franchisees, and today we're about 181 restaurants, and we're opening up on average. 180 plus restaurants. We're opening up another 17 this year. So we'll end the year just under 200.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
and this is since 2020, since 2001.
2001, but we started franchising in technically 2015.
So for the first till 2015, like that was, we were at like, is that the sort of the 7 stores in that 14 sort of year period?
Yeah, by 2015, we were just under 10 locations. And then at that point, we really said, okay, let's start doing this franchising thing. And the incredible thing about that is, I always tell my friends, when you're judging any investment, you got to look at the unorthodox metrics and investment ideas within the actual investment itself. So one of them was for franchising specifically. I could speak to this, obviously. For franchising, you could always tell how strong a franchisor is based on how many franchisees own multiple units and are growing. And for Osmows, we have about 50 franchisees for the 180. So most of our franchisees are multi-unit operators. Yeah, they do very well for themselves. They keep opening up more. A lot of them have the whole strategy in mind of how they can get to 10 locations, how they can get to 15, how they can get to 20. And as a franchisor, that gives you all the confidence in the world that your franchisees are reinvesting with you over and over again. It's not they opened one, they weren't satisfied, and they pulled out, or they're just kind of sticking idle with it. No, they're constantly pushing and bugging me to open up more and asking where they can go geographically that will allow them to open up X number of locations, which, is phenomenal.
Wow. So if you so how many of the 200-ish are corporate versus franchisees?
So 170, I'd say 174 are franchise. So we only have a handful of corporates.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's still a good chunk of corporate though too. That's and again, it keeps you well in the game. So you know what I mean? You don't want to get disconnected from the actual hands-on business either, right? Because because franchisees will have problems, and so will you. Then at least the thing. Well, that's incredible.
Yeah, we got 7. So we have the 7 corporate restaurants. We do a lot of our training out of there.
Awesome.
New product testing and so on. And I love that you said don't get disconnected from like the restaurant level, because I genuinely feel like that's where a lot of franchisors go down.
I think that's where you miss.
You get so corporate, you sit on your high horse, you're now making good money, and you start forgetting about like what the life in the restaurant was like. Yeah. So we actually mandated, we have, within our manufacturing facility, and then here in our corporate head office, we've got about 120 people all in. And every single one of those people has to go spend a minimum of 1 full day in a different restaurant every 6 months, has to go work a full shift in a restaurant every 6 months. So it doesn't matter if you're CFO or you're admin or whatever the case is, you go work in a restaurant, in a different restaurant every time. You work with our franchisee, you work the line, you talk to our customers, you talk to our crew members. And we have this portal that they come back and they just kind of fill out all the information. Hey, while I was there, I noticed customers were asking for this. While I was there, the staff were super happy with this, but not as happy with this. So we got to kind of realize that, the more time our head office spent in office is the less anything surprised us. We had it was almost like we're not surprised. If something wasn't working, we knew about it. If something was, not performing as well sales wise, it was almost like we knew it before we ever got any sales indicators. We knew that this wasn't going to be a great product, because the second we launched it, we got our whole team into the restaurants to sit there and talk to customers, get their feels of that product. So yeah.
Holy shit, man. That's impressive. Wow.
Yeah, it's coming along. Honestly, it's come a really long.
Coming along. It's already along. It's not coming along. Man, this thing's moving like a freight train. I'm like coming along. Holy jeez, 200. That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's why I'm judging you.
Telling me we're going to talk to you. I'm thinking, okay, whatever. We'll talk to. I like food. I'm all over this. Okay, I don't know who he is. Why aren't you in East Bend? Go back to the original discussion. Where the hell is East Bend?
Kenny, now I think you're going to have to, you're going to have to convince whoever you want to go with, a friend, a partner, whoever that is. You're going to have to say, hey, tomorrow night we're going to Osmows. Then that's that. There's no questions asked. You could tell him Ben Osmow's waiting for an email from me to let me know how the food was.
Well, you know what? Because he knows that I can post and I can do it. I just don't. I'll go out. I will. I promise you, because I'm going to be. See, this is got how it has to work. I'm in Richmond sometime in early October.
There you go.
Actually, you know what? No,
it's not far. It's near IKEA.
I'm picking you up next week.
Yes, in the IKEA Plaza.
You know what?
That's right. Right.
We're going to go next week.
There you go.
Done.
So you need the Toronto guy to fly out there to make sure you go get Osmows.
Well, you know why? Because I got to pick you up at the airport.
Just so I got this right, anyway. Right? Like that's how we're gonna do this.
I got to go to Richmond.
He's a homebody. That's what I'm getting from this.
I don't venture too far out of East Vancouver.
For you, sir, I will absolutely do it. Honestly, like.
Well, I'm all over it.
Like it's a neat one because when I told Kenny about it, he was like, "Who's Osmows?" And I was like, "You don't understand. Like if you live in the GTA." Osmows, and if you live in the GTA and you're under 30, it would be a key part of, but it would be a key part of you growing up, right? Because almost every teenager I know has a story about, listen, I had to go get lunch, right? So my nephew, he's 27, 28, right? Grew up, like Mavis and Eglinton area. So that Streetsville Osmow is like home territory for him, right? So he is one of those kids. He went to McMaster. He'd come home. We'd take him for, like we're Chinese. So like freaking make him home meals and everything. And then before we leave, you'd have to stop by Osmows and get, a couple of wraps so he could store them up, for the rest of the week, at Mac. And you're going, I just fed you like kick-ass Chinese. He's like, yeah. But can we go get a couple of wraps? And you're like, what the hell, right? But
I was the same way, by the way. I went to UBC and we had no Osmows in BC at all at the time, obviously. And my carry-on would be filled with 10 to 15 wraps just so I could bring it back for some of the friends at BC. They would always be like, bring it back. I want to see that.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, I'd fill my suitcase with shawarmas, which I don't know if that was legal or not, but I'd fill my suitcase with shawarmas and bring them back. And I was like, everybody's eating this tonight.
That's fantastic. Your dad must be. I mean, because what a great story. Like to have lineups, to have like Phil sharing these stories too. So like, how many stores? How many locations in like sort of the GTA then? Like I would assume the majority.
I mean, yeah, majority are in the GTA. We're right across Canada now at this point. So the only province we're not in at this point is Saskatchewan, and we will be early next year. So we're right across the country, but in the GTA on its own, I'd say we're probably about 73, 74 locations.
Your dad must be just tickled, man. What a great story.
You know what? It's so funny. And my wife makes fun of me for this all the time. She's like, you guys are like too humble where you almost don't even realize what you're sitting on type of thing. And I tell her all the time, it's like, what are we supposed to change in our life? Yes. Now we don't have to stress if we're thinking about, you want to buy food, you want to go for dinner, you want to go on a vacation. Yeah. So we don't have to stress about that anymore, which is incredible. But like, I feel like that's kind of who we are. Like, we're not very flashy people. Like, we're very happy. We're satisfied. We put all the money back into the business always, because we always want to make sure like our franchisees are taken care of. This is a legacy brand. I think that's what we care about more than anything in the world. It's, it's almost like we want to build a legacy around this, right? Like
it's old school mentality, right? It's from the old countries where it's ingrained that way. Like it'd be great if your children, if you guys have kids, if any of you have kids, that it'd be kind of cool it'd be kind of cool to be in your dad's position 30 years from now. Yeah. And you being that one looking in and saying, well, look at that, eh? And then them having the same conversation. Well, Dad, we want our kids to maybe like, I don't know. I think that's just awesome.
It's so cool. Doubt. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, I think, my dad's got a lot of grandkids, and I think he's very much enjoying being a full-time grandfather now and watching. And we always joke about it with, hey, which one of these little brats is going to end up being the first.
Taking over.
Yeah, which one of these little ones is going to be the first to try to intern at the company? And
well, how old are the kids? Like, what are we talking in terms of ages here with the grandchildren?
my oldest niece is 10 years old. Youngest is 2 years. So
the 10-year-old's already full time.
The 10 year, not yet. Apparently, Canada passed new laws now.
Yeah, I see what happens.
They're
They're a little bit more strict on it now.
Those generations change. See what happens when the kids are born here. They get softer, right? See.
Yeah. No, I trust.
10 years old, family business, man. That's what it is. You got to play. You got to work.
There's no doubt in my mind. I told, my whole family knows. There's all of our kids in the entire family. All of our kids, they're working minimum wage jobs no matter what. They're all going out getting minimum wage jobs.
It's good for them.
And they got to want it. That's the thing. It's not something they're going to be pushed into. They got to want it. So, we always talk about that because it's something for us. We didn't ask our parents for money if we wanted to buy a hockey stick or a jersey or something like that. If you wanted to buy, you were almost like nervous to ask your parents about money because you knew they would do their best to say yes, but you felt so guilty about it. And I think that's the difference nowadays. A lot of kids don't necessarily feel guilty to ask those questions or to try to earn something on their own.
Yeah, it's more of a sort of back to I know we've generalized, but sort of that entitled thing.
Yeah.
Right. Where it's nothing's a given, right? I mean, your mom and dad probably came with peanuts. The guy's got a great job. He's a professional in his own country. Come here and you've got it's back to the typical stereotypes. Cab drivers, Uber drivers, working retail, working convenience. And you're thinking seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But you know what? Again, hats off to them. Perseverance.
Yeah. Yeah. And the amount of those success stories, I mean, I already told you guys the one, but the amount of those success stories that we have within our franchise world is amazing. It's and that's why for us, one of the biggest difference with Osmows from a franchising perspective, I did pretty much all of our franchising, franchisee recruitment, real estate selection, and all of our franchisees. I never once cared about a resume. I never once cared about the resume. I would take almost every single meeting, and based off of that gut instinct was how we determined who was or was not going to be our franchisee. First of all, I was 23, 24 years old, technically, when I became a CEO, which, we'll call it a self-proclaimed. It was a small company at the time. And, it was something in which I knew for a fact that I wouldn't have gotten my job if I applied for this job anywhere else. So I would have been judged heavily off my resume. My dad was judged heavily off of his resume. So we're not going to be the brand that judges people off of a resume. If you don't have franchise experience, that's okay. You just have to be damn passionate about it. You got to be. I love the food. I think this food is phenomenal. I think it would do so well in this region. That's what we love hearing our future franchisees talking about.
So what comes next? You guys are, because you're in the space, you're growing like crazy. We're also I think the country is finally open to the cuisine. It sounds weird, right? Because it's 2024, but it's kind of been a long time coming, right? Because it's never quite, even during the 2010s, 2015s, it really wasn't mainstream.
Yeah.
Now it's starting to switch into mainstream. What happens? What do you see next for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, so firstly, I guess I'll say Canada is incredible. It's so built off of so much diversity that people were so open-minded to it. But I mean, it's a very different world today than it was in 2001 when we first started. It was we actually had to almost really push to get people into the restaurant and even to sample the food. I can't tell you how many people we tried to give a sample to, and they're like, "Oh, no, thank you," and they just almost looked uncomfortable. Even the and Phil, you mentioned it. If you think about our top selling menu item, our chicken on the rocks, that's our baby. That's my dad created that menu item specifically to make Canadian consumers feel comfortable ordering something off the menu.
That's hilarious.
Don't stutter trying to say Osmows or shawarma or falafel. Don't worry about that. Get a chicken on the rocks. What is it? It's chicken
Your
shawarma.
dad's brilliant, man. That's awesome.
Listen, you tell him I said thank you because he's powered a whole
generation
by feeding his chicken on the rock. Yes.
No, definitely. But he modernized it. He understood that for a Middle Eastern place to be able to kind of take off the way we did, he would have to change some things to make Canadians feel comfortable coming into the restaurant, trying the food. Because he knew, again, when you actually get to the point where you get to try the food, you will love it. Yeah. Right. But the toughest part was getting them in to try the food originally. And when you ask about
2001 wasn't the greatest year necessarily to start anything Middle Eastern and North America. Do you know what I mean? Like it was all, it doesn't matter where you were from. It had nothing to do with anything. It's just people blanket everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you're already in a pretty shitty spot.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
thank God it's Canada. At least I hope we're a little more tolerant. I mean, sometimes I wonder. I mean, maybe that's we're hanging on to old dreams. Tolerant and progressive than not. So.
No, we definitely are. I mean, we have, Phil, you asked what's next. I mean, we're kind of starting from scratch in many different places. So right now we just started our expansion into the US not long ago. So we opened up our first 3 locations in the US.
Where?
So we have them a little bit scattered all over. So we have one open in Miami, in Buffalo, Walden Galleria Mall, and then we just opened up in Virginia.
That's kind of Buffalo. I understand. I get that. At least it's a border. Yeah. Miami's a little bit of that's winter trip, I guess.
Yeah, we'll call it that.
Yeah, but
all the people on the east side of the country is all Miami, so I figure, okay, it must be a winter trip.
No, but Miami, I can see it landing there, right? Because Miami, kind of that Miami culture is they're pretty open.
Yeah.
They're pretty open to cuisine, so
I'll tell you how Miami happened. One of my best friends, Nico, he worked at Osmows for a few years. He worked there throughout university. He's one of my best friends, so I consider him to be family. And he wanted to move to the States for a long time. And he was like, I'm going to go open up a franchise. I want to open up a franchise. And you know what? I told him, like, I'm all for it. And I've always wanted us to open in the US. That being said, you're not going to open it up as a franchise. There's so much trial and error. It's going to take cash. It's going to take market analysis and adjustments. It's going to take a lot of sampling. It's going to be Streetsville all over again.
Yeah.
We're starting from scratch, right from day one, because nobody in the US knows who we are. So we opened it up corporately. He moved over there to become our manager, run the restaurant. And then from there, now he's actually, we've got all the green flags we've needed to show that this brand has legs over there and we could do a good job in the States the same way we do here in Canada. And we, now he's kind of heading up the real estate side in the US as well. Yeah, so we're just, and this is the beautiful thing about having a business. You can take people that don't have the natural resumes for the job, but you kind of let them strive and lead into it. And I think that's what franchising is. A lot of people move to Canada and they say, I can't, I'm not going to be able to get a job in my corporate field to the same stature that I had back home. But what I can do is set up my own business. I can open up a franchise and not have to worry about climbing the corporate ladder. If I give this everything, if I put all my effort into
it, man, you're going to kill it.
We have franchisees that have full-blown corporations. They have full companies. They have, 70 plus people on their teams individually that manage all of their restaurants. So it's cool to see companies be built within companies.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That is absolutely fantastic.
This is craziness. I love this.
I'm so excited that I invited you to come on.
I'm excited that you're going to get to your first experience very soon.
Hey, I pick them up Thursday morning.
Listen, what time do they open? He's actually picking me up to film an event because we're doing a live panel together. So I'll have mics and cameras. So I'll try and catch him in 4K. Good. And then we'll make sure we post it. And
Osmows and Richmond.
You're gonna have to try a few different things, but one of the things you'll have to try for sure, and I would argue we're the first brand in Canada to ever do this, but you're gonna have to try our shawarma poutine, which shows the modernization of the brand. Shawarma poutine's phenomenal. It's a great product. And then I'd also recommend trying our Saj box. It's fairly new, but it's a very Middle Eastern flat press wrap. And you pick your side, whether it's salad or rice or fries, whatever it is. So try those two.
I'm just trying to get hours of operation.
Yeah. It's near IKEA in Richmond.
I can see the IKEA. Notice. I just want to know what time they're open.
Yeah. I'd imagine it's probably open from 11 a.m. till maybe about 1 in the morning or so. In Richmond, that's pretty much most of our operating hours.
Okay, I'll make sure I get them there.
No, we're doing this.
Hilarious. I love this.
10:30, even better.
Beautiful.
So Phil, you get in probably around 9:30. We just have to burn.
Yeah.
I need some stuff at IKEA. We're going to IKEA.
I'll make a call for you guys.
No, I don't want nobody going in early. No, I don't like doing that to people. That's not nice.
No,
I feel bad.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You know what? I got stuff
It
that
is. It is even better for you guys to go as mystery shoppers, and then you get to give me some very real feedback.
100%.
Yeah. We like that. We
100%.
like, because we're retail guys, right? So anytime it used to be that if you're a VIP, everyone would call ahead, and then you go, and the store looks amazing, right? But you learn nothing.
Story.
You learn nothing about the store, right? So when you go and you get to see what the regular everyday looks like, that's when you learn shit, right? So it's we same philosophy as you guys. So we love it.
I am the absolute king of that. Even when we hired a senior director of operations comes on board, and everybody on the team's like, okay, well, which restaurants are we going to line up? And so I'm like, you guys don't worry about this at all. I'm going to pick them up from the airport, and we're just going to go straight to restaurants. They're like, well, no, you should let them know ahead. I'm like, no, if we have to let them know ahead of time, we're not doing a good job as a brand.
No,
because our customers don't call ahead of time and let anybody know. So we should get to see things in real life. And yeah, we are very, very famous mystery shoppers in office. We give everybody in the office gift cards and tell them to go to different restaurants at any time of the day, night, weekend, so on, to always tell us their experience.
I like it. That's awesome. Hey,
I'm already on the website. I'm just looking now.
Thank you for doing this. We really appreciate you doing this and taking.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. Yeah. Appreciate that we have an interesting enough story to be able to tell on here today.
Oh yeah,
I think you guys have an incredible story. Yeah. I just love. I mean, first off, because we're all from immigrant families. One,
yeah.
So to me, like the immigrant story is always the cool one. I mean, because it's just you come with nothing for the most part. And sometimes, the countries you go to your dad's example, it's not that it's not the friendliest, but, they don't give you credit for what you've done in the old country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of an unfair judgment or whatever you want to call it. So when someone, says, screw this, I'm going to do it. We're going to pop it out of the park. I mean, God bless it, man. That's what else do you want? I mean, that is so cool. Like, so cool. Oh my God, you're reasonable.
Anybody can.
Yeah, the prices are super reasonable too.
Yeah, very reasonable.
Yeah,
very reasonable. And then we also have items like lamb and so on that you wouldn't.
I saw the lamb. I'm doing the lamb shawarma.
Yeah,
I already saw it. I'm on, baby. I'm online.
There we go.
Right on the line. Is that where you are?
I'm on the line, baby. I'm on the line, and there's a delivery or pickup option. See?
Oh my God.
There you go.
Try to do this.
Ben, thanks for doing this.
Ben, honestly, thank you so much.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. Honestly, it's been a pleasure chatting with you both.
Our pleasure.
I can't wait to hear about your first experience, Kenny.
I'm super stoked, man. I am super stoked.
Okay.
Thank you both for having me.
Take care. Have a great day.
Our pleasure. Have a great day. Thank you.
All the best. Bye.
You too, man. I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. And I just had a plate of pasta. I am so hungry.
He's
you know what though? This stuff looks real. So this on the rocks it's just served on rice.
Yep. Yeah. But he's got there's this kind of like meat sauce that he puts on it.
Well, I'm looking at it and honestly, it looks spectacular.
Yeah.
You know what though? Like first thing I saw, because if I do shawarma, I gravitate. Because they won't do. I mean, we don't do goat in Canada. I'm assuming they would do goat in the Middle East. Yeah. But the lamb, or it's got to be. I'm right down that path.
I'm like that too. Yeah, I'm like that too.
You know what? There's a few locations. He's got 3 locations.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got that in the Stevenson's Harbors for you. Poor Phil.
Steveston Harbor. The what?
Yeah, exactly. What the hell are you talking, Steveston Harbor?
Okay. Anyway, you guys, thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody.